So we will be using Kali Linux operating system, which has Nmap installed by default and is a popular Debian distribution to perform penetration testing. We can use a domain name or a network to experiment commands of Nmap. We will see both to experiment a local network. I will be keeping both Kali and our target machine metasploitable in a net network to maintain further safety of the public network by creating the private net network. And we are using Oracle VirtualBox as the hypervisor to perform this penetration testing. So for any command, if we type that command name, for example, nmap, and then --help, it shows us different options that we can use along with that command. So over here we can see that using this nmap command, we can see like how we should use this command. So nmap and then different scan type options and the target uh, that we are using. So using nmap we can perform host discovery, and there are different sort of scanning techniques available as well. For example, TCPSC Scan, ACK scan, Windows scan, null scan, fin scan, xmas scan. I mean, there are so many scan types. And now if we want to even know more about all these options, there is a manual for nmap, and how we can get that is we can simply do man and then nmap or any other command that you want to explore, and then if you press enter, it shows you the whole documentation about that command. So if we go further down and read this documentation, we will see like what this command can do, what are the options we can use, as well as different examples of those commands and options. So we will be exploring some of these options using nmap. So let's press q to quit and get back to the terminal again. So let's clear it out. Alright, so the first command that we will be using is simple nmap command on one single IP address. So if I check the IP address of this virtual machine, we can see that is 10.10.10.19, and the net mask is this one, and we can see that is a type of C network. So our target machine has 10.10.10.20 IP address. So we will simply do a DNS scan to that target machine IP address. So we will do nmap minus n and then the IP address. So 10.10.10 and 20. Press enter, and it shows us a lot of information about the target machine. We can see that the ports that are open and the services that are running on that target machine, and finally showing you like that one host up. That means that target machine is up and running, and it took 0.19 seconds to execute this whole operation to scan the target machine. Alright, so now let's do a scanning to the entire subnet. So we know that our network is in class C subnet. So what we can do is again the same old command, but this time we are going to use the default gateway 10.10.10.1 / the subnet for class C, that means it's 24, and it will scan the whole subnet that we are in. And over here we can see that it's showing 3 hosts up. So within this network we have one default gateway and one IP address for our target and one IP address for our host Kali virtual machine. So it's showing 3 hosts up. So now you need to be responsible in terms of using this Nmap, because it can trigger the intrusion detection of that network. And if you don't have any access to that target machine, and if you try to explore this Nmap command, you might be in trouble. So make sure that you have permission to use that network and perform Nmap scanning. So Nmap actually has one DNS server that we can scan through, which is called scanme.nmap.org. Now this one allows you to perform penetration testing to explore your knowledge, and this way we can use any other domain services to perform penetration testing on. And again, you need to be careful that you have to make sure that you have permission to perform penetration testing on that domain server. So once we do nmap -sn, then that domain name or the IP address behind that server, we can press enter, and it will take a bit time to scan through that network and give us the output. Okay, so now we can see that this scanme.nmap.org has these 4 different services open, and there are 4 different ports open as well. So now one more thing is, when we perform nmap scan, it always scans through the first 1000 ports, whereas there are like 65,536 different ports available. So it does not scan through that whole ports, it only scans the first 1000. Alright, so as we have done the entire subnet, let's have a look to scanning multiple targets. Now how we can do is, we can simply do nmap and then the IP addresses. So 10.10.10.20, and let's say that I have another IP address which is 10.10.10.25. So this way we can specify multiple IP addresses, and if we press enter, then Nmap will scan through those those different IP addresses and give us the output. So now, as we don't have multiple IP addresses over here at this moment, so we are not going to perform this. Alright, so now if you want to scan through a range of IP addresses, how we can do is nmap and then the first 3 part of these IP addresses, and for the last one we can specify the IP addresses range. So let's say from 1 to 100, and if we do that, it will show us the output of all those IP addresses. So in this way we can scan through a range of IP addresses of that target network. Okay, so now we have seen that we can scan through a range of IP addresses. Now what about if we want to exclude any IP address, instead of like running all these IP addresses, we can exclude some of the IP addresses as well. So as we know that scanning through an entire subnet will take a huge amount of time to execute the whole operation, what we can do is we can exclude some of the IP addresses within that subnet that we don't need. So we can use the option --exclude and then specify the IP addresses. So let's say 10.10.10.15, and then we press enter, then it is going to show all the IP addresses apart from the excluded IP address. So now, as I mentioned earlier, that if we scan through a single host, and it will always scan only the first 1,000 ports, and if we want to scan all the ports, we can do the option -p minus and then the IP address. So it is going to scan through the whole 65K ports, and it is showing up until 60,000, which is the last port that is open for this target machine. So in this way, we can scan through all the available ports for this target machine. So now if we want to be specific to scan some of the specific ports on that target machine, how we can do is we can use nmap -p and then specify the ports that we want to scan through. Let's say 21, 23, 25 and 80, and then space and then the IP address. So if we press enter, it will show us only the result for the specified ports. Okay, so let's see how we can find information about the operating system. So the operating system of that target host can be detected using the option -O flag. So bear in mind that this performs TCP/IP fingerprinting, and it requires root or sudo privileges when running this command. So if we try to run the command with -O, we can see that it's asking that it requires root privileges. So we are making the Kali as a root user. So now if we perform again nmap -n and then -O and then the IP address, so along with the other information, it can show us the MAC address, the running operating system, which is Linux, and other details of that operating system, like the version and all. Linux kernel is 2.6. This way we can get more information about the operating system that is getting used by that host IP address or host. So far we have seen that all these options are giving us information about the services of those open ports. So now if we want to gather the version number of those services being run on the target, we have to use the option -S_V. So how we do that is -SV, and that will allow us to find the running version number for those services. So now we can see that we have these version details about these services, all these services, right? So it is giving us more information about those open ports, and if we explore later on about all these versions and services, we might find that there are different existing vulnerabilities for these versions, and it gives us the path to perform exploitation in the later stages of our penetration testing. So far all these scanning we have done mainly uses TCP scan, but there are some advanced scanning techniques as well, as we have seen earlier while using the man command and help command. So one of the advanced scanning technique is called TCP Scan or stealth scan. So TCP Scan is also called half open scanning because this technique allows Nmap to gather more information from the remote host without completing the TCP three-way handshaking process, and the Nmap sends scan packets to the destination, but it does not create any session. So in order to use this TCP scan or stealth scan, we have to use Nmap minus SS and then the targeted IP address. And you have to be a root user to perform these advanced scanning techniques as well. So press enter. So this TCP scan can give more information about different ports and services that we might not get from the TCP scan in general. We have talked about TCP scan. So what about UDP scan? How we can perform UDP scan? So now if we want to perform UDP scan apart from that TCP scan, we need to use the option -su. So this way we can find out if there is any open UDP port on the target machine, and UDP scan is likely to be slower than TCP due to the difference in how this protocol works. So I will press Ctrl C to stop this current command. Okay, so the final command that we will be exploring is called aggressive scan. So we can do nmap -sn or -n and then -A and then the IP address. So what this aggressive scan do is it can perform all the operations like the ping scan, the the version detection, the service detection of those versions, and the operating system running behind that host as well. So all these operations can be done with this one single command. And as well as we can see that for each of these open ports there are so many other so many other information given, and some of these information can be useful when we perform exploitation on this target host. Now you can only use this aggressive scanning when you have permission from that organization you are performing penetration testing for, and without the permission and without this legal permission you cannot perform aggressive scanning, otherwise you might be in legal problems. So be responsible while using this Nmap tool and only use for learning purposes, not for any sort of hacking. Alright, so that would be all for this tutorial, and there are so many other options and commands we could use with Nmap, and we have seen all those at the beginning of this video, that um, we had so many other options we could use. For example, some of your target hosts might have firewall, and you want to evade and bypass those firewall to get access to the target machine. In that case, this -f fragmenting packets or snoof source address, this whole options can help you with those, as well as different other scanning techniques, from for example xmas scan, fin scan. These can also help you to bypass and get more information about the open ports and services of that target host. So I hope this video was helpful for you and you learned different options, the common different options that we can use to gain a lot of information about that target host. And from this point I hope that you will be able to explore the other options that we did not go through in this video. And if there is any problem, you can drop your question in the comment, and I would try my best to answer those as quickly as possible. And if this video was helpful to you, please do like, comment and subscribe. And if you feel that it would be helpful for your friends, please do share this video to them as well.